Now we're going to get an interactive crash course from Sahar Mansoor, founder of Bare Necessities. Over to you, Sahar.
Hi everyone, it's SusMafia. Thank you so much for having me. So the idea for this session is for it to be really interactive. So I really encourage everyone to turn on their videos and feel free to just interact. Please pop up questions in the little chat box and we will kind of address them at the end. I'm going to start off by just sharing a little bit about my story because I think it'll help kind of set the context of why I'm so obsessed with waste. And then we'll kind of break out into a fun, more interactive session. So I think we're going to start off with the poll, just in case the poll is ready. But also, equally, if anyone wants to turn off their, unmute themselves and also share what was the last piece of waste they threw out, I'd love to hear.
Do you want text input or audio?
Let's just wait for the poll to get done and then we can address the next one. Awesome. So half the people have actually voted already. So just to kind of get a good sense of the room and the reading of the room where everyone is in their sustainability journey, I think this will be really useful. Okay, great. So if everyone can see the results. I want to explore ways to make my workplace, my lifestyle, my living community more sustainable was the top choice. Cool. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so now if anyone wants to unmute themselves and share what was the last piece of trash they threw out, I'd love to hear.
Plastic takeaway bottles.
Plastic takeaway bottle. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Okay, I think I threw away a medical, medicine strip.
Yeah. A necessity. What are we going to do? Okay.
I have not thrown, I'll say, the leaves of the tea.
Yeah.
I'm using it for composting. So I've thrown it in the box, which I have kept it here.
So you're composting it, so that's great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I threw a battery.
A battery. Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. Miss Sita, did you also want to share?
I'm Arjun.
Okay, go for it.
The last piece of trash I threw is a plastic bottle, the oil bottles that we get.
Okay, a plastic bottle. Second vote for the plastic bottle. Miss Sita, did you want to share again?
I said so many things we keep throwing every day. Difficult to pinpoint anything.
Yeah, true.
So there's vegetable waste and there is a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. It's overwhelming. We have a lot that we're all doing and there is lots of waste that we generate. Okay, so now I'm going to quickly just take you through my story and then we're going to, again, please feel free to put any questions throughout. And then in the end, we're just going to quickly interact and kind of circle up this conversation from where we started. Also, thank you all for spending your Sunday with us. There's so many things that you could be doing, but you've chosen to spend the time with us. So thank you so much for joining us. All right, so let's talk trash. So this jar essentially has primarily all of the waste that I produced in the past 4 years, almost 5 years actually. And it might sound pretty crazy to a lot of people. And I was doing this for very, very personal reasons. So I thought I would just kind of share the background story today. So growing up, I am the youngest of 3. I have 2 older sisters who are amazing. And my dad absolutely loved nature. So every weekend we were in Cubbon Park. I grew up in Bangalore. I'm still here in Bangalore. So every weekend we were in Cubbon Park, and family holidays meant we were, climbing trees, but also jumping into waterfalls, coffee picking. I think almost every weekend had a huge element of nature growing up. And even our summers. So I think in a way, I've been an environmentalist since I was a little 3-year-old, but of course I didn't really understand that. But in college, I started kind of identifying myself as an environmentalist. Specifically, I watched this one course, I think I was 18 or 19 years old, of this lady named Bea Johnson. And the jar that she's holding is all of the waste that she, her husband, and her 2 kids had produced in like 4 odd years. And I remember being super inspired by that, but also thinking this is insane. This is just unrealistic. I have 3 jobs on campus. I have a scholarship to maintain. She's probably a single mom, a stay-at-home mom, and has all of this time to make all of these things. So of course, I came up with like a laundry list of excuses why I could probably never do that. But of course, I was super, super inspired. And I had the privilege of the opportunity of being in this really fun, small liberal arts school. So I walked up to my dean and I said, Dean Saleza, you don't have the major I want. And he said, what do you mean? Said, we have like 582 majors here. And I said, yeah, but I want to take environmental science in the science department, but environmental policy in the liberal arts school. And I want to take surfing science and all of that. So he said, okay, now sit down. And we literally kind of highlighted every environmental course that was offered at my university and made it a major. So I'm super, super fortunate to have like these super amazing professors to kind of guide me through my environmental journey. But to be honest, I was kind of like very excited to go on this very academic path. So I wanted to be an environmental professor like them. I wanted to do my PhD. So fast forward, after my undergrad, I went to University of Cambridge to do my master's. And honestly, the best thing that happened to me was I got totally rejected from a full ride for the PhD, which made it impossible for me to do that. And for the first time, I had this opportunity to kind of reflect on what I really wanted to do. So I then spent some time at the World Health Organization in Geneva during the Ebola outbreak under very, very strong leadership, which was really interesting. But what I learned from that time was I was looking at our waste problem from a very kind of environmental lens, and I was not looking at it from a health lens at all. So that was something that WHO really kind of got me looking at it. But moving back to Bangalore in 2015, I started to basically start looking at our waste problem from a social justice angle. I had the opportunity to put away my very elitist, honestly, academic perspective, a very elitist perspective aside, and kind of look at the problem from grassroots lens moving upward. I was working at this social solar energy enterprise, and essentially we work on filling energy needs for various underserved communities. So basically my life for those 2.5 years was a backpack, a couple of kurtas, a bamboo toothbrush, and I was taking any bus transported to any rural parts, primarily in Karnataka. And we were solarizing public health centers, we were solarizing agri equipment. And for me, when I moved back to India, I knew I wanted to work in the impact space, and specifically I wanted to create some sort of environmental impact. And for me, the biggest 2 problems was energy access and waste issues. So in terms of energy, it was just kind of a no-brainer because without lights, kids couldn't study, machines can't operate, agri equipment can't operate, medicines can't be refrigerated, and of course, in these situations, economies will not improve. Right? So I thought I was doing a really great job, feeling really pretty good about myself. And then I was kind of assigned this project to work with the waste pickers because everyone at office obviously knew that this is kind of my passion project. And this community is literally just right next to the Bangalore International Airport, super fancy, smart city, IT capital of the world, of India, all of that stuff. And literally not far away is this waste picker community just by the Hebal flyover. And what we did was we put kind of solar panels on top of their chai kadai. So every morning they come in for chai, they have kind of put in their battery for charge, go on for a day's work, come back, and they have like this fully charged battery that they can plug into the lantern, right? And again, I thought I was doing a really great job. Rahman here in the orange shirt was telling me that he can finally see his daughter's face in the evening when he comes back while they're eating their meals and eating dinner and things like that. But what I started to do was just kind of follow them around Bangalore on my cycle between 5 and 9 a.m. right before I had to work. And of course, I was confronted by our waste problem in a way that I hadn't before. Because there you go, the orange shirt Rahman, Mr. Rahman was probably, picking through sanitary napkins that maybe I had worn the day before that this broken glass bottles, maybe the wine bottle that I broke a couple of weeks back. And this just humanized the issue for me. And I said, I don't want anything to do with this problem, and I want to be part of the solution. And for me, the best way how I knew how to be part of the solution was just kind of reduce my own waste, and as little as close to zero. And that's kind of when I thought back that crazy documentary that I watched my freshman year in college. And I said, I'm going to try that crazy thing that Bear Johnson is doing. I'm going to try that zero waste lifestyle. And that's how I began. So, of course, we just went through the pass-through sessions from Chandrasekhar and Amishi, which was phenomenal. So I'm not going to go in through what is the problem at stake, because I think everyone is, by virtue of being here, already knows. Another thing is, what is zero waste? When I started in 2015, I feel like I had to start every workshop with what is zero waste, but I feel like now there's so much awareness and everyone kind of knows what it is. But essentially, very, very quickly, it is a lifestyle that basically encourages community health and justice. That one that is just more equitable, that thinks about environmental justice, but also social justice. And we try and reduce our waste to as little as possible. And that means waste going to incinerators, waste going to landfills, but also waste going to oceans, right? So how did I get started? Actually, these are photos from my first ever blog. So they're like legit, really photos from my first few steps when I started in 2015. So the first thing I did was, I guess, what is the first thing we all do when we wake up in the morning? Anyone want to unmute yourself and tell me?
Brush your teeth.
That's right. So most people wake up in the morning and brush their teeth, right? And of course, primarily all of the toothbrushes that we use are plastic. And then the toothpaste tube are basically impossible to recycle because they're made from multi-layered plastic. They're multi-layered plastic, sometimes they even have aluminum inside. And of course, they have like 21 different chemicals, out of which I think I could pronounce like one. So just making little experiments. And at the time, we didn't even have like lots of bamboo toothbrushes in India. So I messaged my sister who was living in Copenhagen. I said, hey, can you please get this bamboo toothbrush for me? Waited 6 months until she came here. But of course, in the meantime, I was using like miswak sticks and neem sticks, which were cool, and started this process of oil pulling. But to be honest, I just really miss the sensation of brushing my teeth. So that was my first step. Then I started composting my waste. I'm sure all of you know, but Daily Dump is this amazing enterprise. So I got my first ever nano kamba from Daily Dump. And then I was primarily working in rural Karnataka every 7 days. So I would literally just come back with like 3 kilos of peanuts and like 8 kilos of moong dal and like all sorts of amazing pulses from the farmer directly. So just trying to start buying groceries, but also pulses, everything in bulk was kind of a big change for me. And also getting all of my snacks in this little cloth bag with almonds and walnuts and everything. So I didn't have to kind of reach out for a bag of some, XYZ chips that was otherwise packaged in plastic. And then in my zero waste journey, I realized that it was becoming like this poster child of this Western zero waste movement. But actually, zero waste is just very, very traditionally in our Indian DNA, right? So the notions of bazaars, going and getting, as much as we possibly want, very, very democratically, rather than these kind of like these Western-inspired grocery stores that are kind of giving you pre-dictated amount of packaged food. And then, of course, our stainless steel tiffins, again, was becoming like the poster child of the zero waste movement in the West, and is 18th century Indian invention, which is this combination of equipment, food, but also a supply chain system. And for me, like the Dabbawalas in Mumbai are a phenomenal example of zero waste, because every day over 2 lakh meals are getting delivered, employing about 6,000 to 7,000 Mumbai Dabbawalas, with like basically no margin of error, that even Harvard case studies are done on them, and essentially all without producing any waste. And that is a phenomenal example of zero waste. So I think we in India are at this amazingly pivotal time where we've seen how things were, the bazaars are still here, and we also see kind of the influx of new with urbanization, and we can decide how we want to go. We don't need to just become merely these like waste managers like the West, which is they just say segregate, and then they just ship it off to countries like India and China and all of that. Of course, there have been legislations through the Basel Convention, which actually says that hazardous waste should not be sent. But even though they've been surpassing and sending us waste for so many years. But of course, in 2018, China said, absolutely not, we're not going to take any of this. And we've seen, of course, in the past few years, more and more countries are rejecting all of the waste coming from UK and whatnot. So I think it's up to us to kind of marry the old and the new and kind of reimagine a more equitable, more just, more zero waste system that is in sync with things that we used to do. Especially like this, I can't even imagine telling the Swiggies and the food startups of the world how the Mumbai Dabbawalas have not generated any waste in the past so many years. I know I might be preaching to the choir here because if you're all here, you're already all pretty sustainable. But I'm going to just share like one fun fact that I learned in my journey that I didn't know. I did this talk in Microsoft, and someone put up their hand and said, my spouse is an ENT specialist, and no kidding, 67% of people who come in are because of some sort of damage because of the earbud. And fun fact, according to the WHO, you shouldn't be putting anything that is smaller than your elbow into your ear. So essentially, they're telling you don't put anything into your ear. So, we literally use earbuds for like 3 seconds and toss them out. So that's something that we can totally avoid. Of course, there are other things such as using your own menstrual cup, using combs, which are actually really good for the health of your scalp and whatnot. But I'm sure all of you already know about it. Zero waste kitchen. Of course, this is something we all kind of had the opportunity to get very intimate with our food and our waste over the past 6 months in quarantine. And I think it is, we've kind of, we see that we have the potential to kind of be part of this solution by just simply being more mindful of our food waste. Globally, food waste causes about 11% of our greenhouse emissions. So by just simply reducing our food waste, we are saving money because it's more pocket friendly if you're just kind of planning better and using all of your food, but also kind of causing, in the process, you're also kind of being part of the solution, right? So just reinventing leftovers, planning your grocery things ahead of time, composting your food waste. Also, there's this amazing concept called root to stem cooking, which is basically advocates for using all parts of your fruit or vegetable. For example, the tops of your green chilies or some of the onion peels and heads and stuff, we often just kind of throw that. But we can save all of those vegetable scraps and freeze them and then use it to just boil it and make it a vegetable broth, and then use that in cooking our curries or whatever that might be. Or when we're using, for example, a broccoli, the leaves and the stem we often kind of throw out, but actually you can kind of cut the one part that's exposed in the market, but then you can use that in terms of baking it or whatever, and actually it is extremely nutritious. And this is kind of rooted in this concept called snout to tail cooking, which is in the kind of meat eating industry, but of course, since we're moving to being more plant-based, this is a root to stem cooking concept, which has been super cool, and it's really great for your health, your pocket, and the environment. Of course, kind of being more mindful of our closet. I have to be really honest, but I'm not super minimal. I'm striving to be more minimal, but I'm also someone who's very sentimental. So I can tell you where I bought this and how that happened and who gave me that. So I had all of these college t-shirts, right, from all of the volunteering and all of the student clubs I was involved in. And my mother was like, you just have to get rid of this. So I just made this little blanket that something that is more utilitarian that I can kind of use more often. And there's also a way to kind of curate my memories. But of course, other things that we all know about already. These two entrepreneurs are women I worked with when I was in the solar energy space, and we kind of helped solarize their machines and adding more predictable livelihoods. So I just think like we communicate so much of who we are through our clothing. And we're so lucky in India, we've got like ikat and bandhani and, block printing and khadi. We have all of these amazing textiles. So it is so important that we choose more mindfully in terms of what we purchase to and decide to clothe ourselves in, rather than going for these fast fashion brands. Because of course, on an average, they're getting like 37 cents per article of clothing. We all know about the Rana Plaza incident where thousands of garment workers lost their lives in Bangladesh as the building collapsed. So super, super important to kind of be part of the solution, and actually clothing is an easy way to be part of the solution. Travel, of course, we're all not traveling very much right now, but I think my favorite thing to do is to carry my headphones. So you don't, if you are on a flight, they give you these things that are packaged in plastic, and then they clean it, and then they come back and then with lots of chemicals, and you can just carry your own headphones and you'll get to watch the whole movie, and they won't collect your headphones ahead of time. So yeah, this is just kind of a day in the life of Sahar. Ice cream, this corner house, if any of you are from Bangalore, is like the best ice cream place ever, and you can take your own. And yeah, so essentially, we mentioned about kitchen waste, and this is again from Daily Dump, another resource that we love and respect, a partner that we love and respect. But by simply composting all of our food waste, we can reduce our waste by 60%, which I think is amazing. I just want to see how I'm doing on time. Okay. Cool. So the second kind of realization in my zero waste journey was that we live in a world with landfill destined products, and we need more zero waste products that are just more circular in design, that have more integrity in design, that want to go back to the earth and aren't kind of depleting resources at this unprecedented rate. Because we all, of course, know that we're currently living in the largest global garbage crisis of our lifetime. So essentially, most countries have produced what waste they would have produced kind of in a year, they produced in 2 months in the pandemic, just because of fear and, of course, all of the protective equipment. So I don't think that buying a bamboo toothbrush is a solution to climate change. Like, I don't think we can kind of use consumerism as a way out. That's totally not the thesis of this. I think this was just one way how I knew how to be part of the solution, because I think when you're working in lots of environmental issues, it's hard to kind of see what impact you're having, because it's very, it's big. It's like, oh, countries, emissions worldwide, and you just feel like you have kind of no say or your actions don't matter. And for me, a zero waste lifestyle is just a very, very tangible way in which I could possibly envision my impact. And it was just something physical that you can hold, a bamboo toothbrush. Okay, if I use this, I can save 300 plastic ones from going up in the landfill, which will otherwise take like 900 years to decompose. I hope you can all hear me because it's raining and quickly close the window if that will help. Okay, cool. So that was just one way how I knew to be part of the solution. And of course, we thought we needed to celebrate Indian ingredients, because everything now that we were getting was largely kind of inspired by Western consumerism, using ingredients that we didn't recognize. So we thought we had a duty to kind of celebrate Indian ingredients like turmeric, like green gram, like rose, and annatto, which is this insane red clove that's grown only in India and in Morocco. So we actually source all of our raw materials ethically from a lot of the farmers that I helped work and solarize their agri equipment. And we are a completely woman-run manufacturing team. All of them have, since starting at Necessities, learned computer skills, learned English, but also learning how to ride a bike, and now commuting to office using their own kind of ways of transporting. But also all of our packaging is completely compostable, recyclable, reusable. And I think the idea was to kind of explore natural material as far as possible. And why did we, seek to use bamboo? Bamboo is the fastest growing plant in the world. It takes only 3 weeks to grow full size. I'm actually just going to quickly show some ingredients, So I'm just going to go through a few products and kind of what the materials we chose to use. So of course, one was bamboo. Bamboo is the fastest growing plant in the world. This is sisal. It's like a loofah. It's made from sisal. Again, it's completely compostable. This is coconut fiber to wash your dishes. Again, completely compostable when you're done. Stainless steel straws, of course, you can use one for your entire lifetime. It's made out of food grade stainless steel, which is 3304. But also equally worked with another kind of professor in Bangalore who makes these coconut leaf straws, which are completely compostable with dry coconut leaves. So we worked with coconut vendors all across Bangalore to help them transition out of plastic straws. Things like it's a spoon and a fork, and you can just kind of keep this little kit in your glove compartment or bag or office or whatever. This is a little stainless steel cup, which is completely collapsible, so it doesn't occupy much space. You can just kind of super compact. So most things are super compact and lightweight. You can use kind of makeup rounds that are made from organic cotton. You can crochet them yourself, and then you can take off your kajal, cleanse your face, rather than using the multi-layered kind of wet wipes and stuff that will basically never compost because it's made from polythene. Stationery that is maybe made out of seeds or newspapers are kind of great alternatives. So the idea of at Necessities is to just kind of try and redesign products using ingredients or material that will kind of go back to the earth. So the idea is to kind of design waste out of the system. So as far as possible, we kind of mirror values of circular economy. And yeah, that's a little bit about what we do. Beeswax food wrap is also super cool. It takes the shape of like anything.
Time check. I just want to cut you off.
Yeah.
On time check.
Okay. Sorry. Now.
2 minutes, and you want to get some input from the audience? Or...
Yeah. Okay. So if everyone can feel free to turn on your camera again and ask any questions that you might want to have, that we can discuss about materials, any aspects of the zero waste lifestyle that you are struggling with, want to know an alternative for, any kind of brainstorm. Happy to hear.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question about broken glass.
Yeah.
So one is that we send all our dry waste to a dry waste center, so we don't throw anything. But we do end up with a lot of broken glass, and so we just put it in a separate bag and just like put a rubber band on it so that nobody puts their hand in it. But what would really happen to glass that's broken? Would it get recycled if it reaches a recycler, or it doesn't get recycled?
Yeah, it totally depends. I mean, that only like 5% of all of our waste actually gets recycled, actually. So glass is one of the most recyclable items ever. So you can just basically make it into kind of a stand, and then you can repurpose and make it into another glass bottle, essentially. But when you're doing the right thing, that's great. You're putting it into separate kind of box. You can also kind of mark it with on the top. And write that it's broken glass, especially with like lead, if possible. And that way it might possibly kind of go to the next kind of process of going upcycled into a new glass bottle.
Thank you so much for your session.